Hi, today I'm going to show you how to make long knitting sticks so that you can make the rug that I'm going to do in the next video. This is a herringbone rug done on, it's my own pattern, done on two sizes of the knitting rods, two diameters of the knitting rods. You'll need something at least 20 to 24 inches long and or wider depending on how big you want to make the rug. The finished size on this is about 17 inches. So, but it takes up a little more space, of course, as you're knitting it. Now, you can see that when I have these on here, again, this is what I did the edge with, the black edge, and this is what I knit the body with. That rug is heavy, and it's going to want to pull your stand forward. You can either put on longer legs, if you have some more 1/2 inch Schedule 40 pipe, or you can tie the back of your stand down. So what I did was just put a loop of fabric on the drawer of my desk here. This is just one of those pull-out trays, and I can just slip the legs underneath that. And otherwise, you know, the back end of your stand's going to want to come up. You could clamp it or use some books. That will work too. So what you'll need to buy to make your small diameter knitting sticks are dowel rods and also this pipe that's sold as 1/2 inch cpvc pipe, ultra pure. This is over in the hot and cold water area. It's not with the other PVC pipe. But the oh, and you'll need some adapters. Now, you can get this piece called socket and spigot. You want to make sure it'll fit on your 1/2 inch Schedule 40 pipe if that's what you've made your stand out of. And then the smaller end will accommodate your dowel rods. Now, it won't accommodate this pipe. It's just a little too small. But you don't have to buy this piece. It's 98 cents. So what I like to do is just use the regular elbow, regular 90-degree elbow for 1/2 inch pipe, and then you could cut a small chunk off of your 1/2 inch Schedule 40 pipe if you have spare, and then put it inside and push it down so that it fits flush. It only needs to be about 3/4 of an inch long because there's a little ridge inside there. Make sure you don't get the threaded ones, by the way. Look inside to make sure they're smooth. And then just use your ratchety cutter to cut a little chunk. And so before you stick it in there, though, you're going to want to make sure that your little piece here is smooth. You're not going to be able to get all the writing off or anything. It doesn't matter. But what you want to do is get, and I like these sanding sponges. This happens to be a coarse one. And it will take off all those things that will snag your yarn, because it'll be hard to sand once the piece is actually in there. Now, so you just want to get that enough. You won't be able to, like I say, get all these other things off, but anything that's going to snag your yarn you want to get. And then go ahead and push this little piece in. And you don't really need to glue this. Once you have it fit flush, and just push down until you can't push it down any farther. Now, for the size that's equivalent to the US 15, I like to buy the 3/8 inch oak dowel rod, and it only comes, you know, in a 36 inch length. If you want to do 48 inches, you'll have to get poplar. And for the US 17, get a 1/2 inch dowel rod. Now, they put these labels on here, and once you finally get this off, it may come off in one piece. But not always. It'll leave, it's kind of a plastic. This is at Lowe's, so every store is different. Some places don't put these labels on, which is nice. But the point is, once you get this label off, you will need to remove that rest of that stickum on there. It's not easy to do. Paint thinner really doesn't do the job. But if you take even some acetone nail polish remover, or you can use, you know, the acetone from the hardware store. Or you could use adhesive remover, too. You want to get as much of that off as you can, because otherwise you can't really sand it. When you buy your dowel rod, look down the length and try to get as straight as you can. And make sure there aren't knots in the wood that you can't sand out. And it's hard to get all this off, but you'll get most of it off. And what you can't get off with the nail polish remover, I've tried paint thinner, it doesn't work as well. And then you're going to sand this. And again, I like to use sanding sponges. They last forever. And when you do your first sand, you might have to use some coarser, something a little coarser as your sandpaper before you go down to your sanding sponge. This one I brought out here for this demonstration is a little rough for this, but let's see. It's nice because they'll bend a little, and they're good on a round thing. They won't flatten things off. And you want to make sure that you have this, you know, smooth as much as possible. Get off all the burrs and splinters, and you want to make sure that you do this end. And if you, I mean, you can use an electric sander too if you have one, or a Dremel tool. You want to make sure that this is smooth and the edges rounded over a little bit. Something like that. You get the idea. And then when you go to put this inside your little elbow, it's still going to be too big. So you are going to take some 3/4 inch masking tape, and you are going to go around this end that's going to go inside. And I always use the end that has the die and had the label. And take your masking tape and hold it up against the edge of your dowel rod. And I let a little bit hang off just so it's not, I know that it's not going to be sticking out the end of my adapter. And hold your masking tape in your hand and wind, try to get that on straight, and wind the dowel rod itself, and it's easier to get it on there straight. You don't want to wrinkle it up. You want it on there nice and tight. And so I'm just rolling the dowel rod in my hand, and I'll go round and round and round and round. And I'll keep checking, and I'll try to get that even. I'm not going to worry that that's hanging off because I'm going to trim it. And when I know that it's big enough, and it will take several rounds, it's still a little too small. Oops. Still a little too small. I want that to be tighter in there. Put a little bit more tape on. If you're going to use hot melt glue to glue your piece in, you want to make sure you have plenty of space because hot melt glue is not very forgiving. I've started using the rapid fuse, and I like that better because I have a little more working time. And just go round and round. And like I say, you're going to keep checking that, and it doesn't have to go all the way in. And then I can just trim this off if you want to. It might hit up against your ridge if you're using the 1/2 inch pipe inside your regular elbow. You don't want to do that. You want to be able to get in as, you know, up to the ridge. So I just trim this off then. Don't have to do that if you don't want to. And then once it's in, the tape is around there, that'll provide enough of a spacer. And when you, let's see, I'd still like a little bit more tape on there before I put my glue in. Let's do that. Masking tape works the best. I've tried other things and I think this is better. But you want to get the 3/4 inch. It doesn't have to be pretty when you tear it off because you'll never see it in there. Now that's good, and the reason you're going to do that is otherwise it would be very hard to center this inside your adapter, and they're not going to be even then when you put them on your pipe. You want to try to make that as even as possible. Now when you put your glue inside, and you're just going to hold, don't try to put it on your stick. Put the glue, or your hot melt glue, whatever you're going to use, and it doesn't have to fully cover it. You just want to coat the inside of that little adapter. And then put your rod inside, and then I roll the rod a little bit just to make sure that the glue is dispersed along the side. And you'll feel it start to tack up. And then you need to let that sit for 30 minutes. And then if you want to, you can go back and put a little caulk right inside that rim if you want to. Clear caulk, but you don't need to. And I think that looks nicer and neater than using the hot melt glue, but that's certainly an option. When you go to make your 1/2-inch ones, so that works for both the dowel rods. Obviously you're going to need more tape for the 3/8-inch one, around and round. When you go to make this one, you won't need the spacer inside the 90-degree elbow. But you'll need to take all the writing off, and nail polish remover works just fine for that, but it won't take it all off. And so what I like to do, this stuff is plastic, and if you're going to be sanding plastic, I prefer to do it in the sink where I'm washing it at the same time so it's not in the air. You'll see when I go to do this, all my writing won't come off, but most of it comes off. And then you can take it to the sink and wash it and get the rest of it off with the sanding sponge, or, as I'll show you, it'll come right off with this, but it makes dust. So use a mask or do it outside. And while you're doing this, make sure that you are taking this and rounding this edge over just a little bit. There shouldn't be burrs or anything like that if you've cut it with a ratchet, but there certainly will be if you do it with a hacksaw. And smooth that out so there's nothing to snag the yarn, and also so it's not so rough if you get your finger up against it. And then treat it the same way. And so all you'll need then is your pipe, 4 dowel rods, and then 6 elbows. And then you're ready to rock and roll. Thanks for watching.